My Trillionaire Son-in-Law. Chapter 8. This sound is very unpleasant. Looking up, I saw a man with a fat head and big ears, with a beer belly, looking at Andrew Cheng with a sneer. Isn't it your business to eat soft rice or not? Besides, do I know you well? Andrew Cheng pursed his lips, did not intend to answer, turned around and was about to leave. But the dead fat man had no intention of letting him go. He walked up to him, blocked Andrew Cheng's path, and said sarcastically, "Ignore people. This is very arrogant. I heard that you have become a businessman, and our Vice President Marion Young is in charge of food and accommodation. Yes, you are also very interesting. A big man actually eats soft rice." Andrew Cheng frowned, his expression very unhappy. He knew this person, the manager of Marion Young's marketing department, Marvin Huang. He once tricked Marion Young, but he taught her a lesson later. Unexpectedly, this guy now saw himself and started all kinds of unscrupulous ridicule. Several other Marion Young colleagues also looked at Andrew Cheng with strange eyes at this time. They all knew Andrew Cheng more or less. He used to be a high-spirited businessman, but now he was just a poor guy who delivered food. Standing in the crowd, Marion Young frowned, looked at Andrew Cheng, and felt very embarrassed. "Andrew Cheng, come back quickly," Marion Young said. When Marvin Huang heard this, he raised his eyebrows, and the disdain in his eyes became more intense. Another colleague also sneered. "This Andrew Cheng, even his own wife doesn't like him, is a complete failure." Andrew Cheng didn't want to stay for a moment, he turned around and was about to leave. But then Marvin Huang said reluctantly, "Andrew Cheng, don't go. Why don't you have dinner with me? Your wife signed $1 million order yesterday, and you won't be able to deliver it even after 10 years. Delivery. Shouldn't we celebrate this milestone together? $1 million order." Marion Young spoke. Andrew Cheng knew it in his heart, but he didn't plan to stay here. Even his wife was urging him to leave, so why bother making fun of himself when he stayed here? Marion Young. Marion, if you knew that your order was facilitated by me, how would you react? No, I have to go to the hospital, Andrew Cheng said coldly. Marvin Huang couldn't help but say. He pulled Andrew Cheng into the shop, and hugged his shoulders tightly and said, "There is nothing to be embarrassed about, it is your wife's treat. Eat soft rice, but also pay attention to it." In this way, everyone entered the Juxian Pavilion Hall, and Andrew Cheng was forcibly withdrawn, but still stood alone in the corner. Marion Young, on the other hand, remained with her colleagues, excitedly talking about how her orders were being completed. "Vice President Young, you mean, someone helped you, and this deal was completed?" One of the beautifully dressed women asked in surprise. Marion nodded and said, "At first, Mr. Wilmer Hong from Lisheng Pharmaceutical tried to make things difficult for me. You know, he had invited me to dinner several times, but yesterday, he answered a phone call and suddenly signed a contract with me and gave me a very sincere apology." Saying that, Marion Young couldn't help but look at Andrew Cheng, who was standing blankly in the corner. Feeling a little disappointed. He hoped that person would be Andrew Cheng, but he knew that it would never be possible. "Wow, who has a crush on our Vice President Young to help you so much? This is $1 million deal." The girl shouted again, deliberately speaking loudly so Andrew Cheng could hear. "Listen, bastard, your wife has been missed by others, and you are still standing here stupidly. Too bad." Just as everyone was chatting, Marvin Huang came over with a tangled face and said, "I can't eat anymore, so I still have to make an appointment here, so members can order now." Marvin Huang didn't believe that Juxian Pavilion still had to make an appointment. And to register for membership, it actually requires an annual consumption of more than 1 million. Spending $1 million on food every year is truly a local tyrant. Marion Young stood up immediately, with an expression of disbelief. "What should we do? Should we change families? I originally planned to invite everyone to dinner today, but it turned out to be a promise." This was also the first time Marion Young came to Juxian Pavilion, and he still heard suggestions from his colleagues. Ah. No way. Mr. Huang, I came here after a long journey. Master Huang, think of a way. I heard that Juxian Pavilion is very delicious. It's really not working, just change it. Some people started to get dissatisfied and kept talking non-stop. Marvin Huang was also very helpless. He was not busy in front of Marion to win goodwill in front of Marion Young. But where did he get this million membership card? Why don't we change Dezhuang? I need to make an appointment here, and I can't help it. Marvin Huang shrugged. The woman who called the loudest just now was Mylene Shu, who was Marvin Huang's secretary. Of course, it has to be said. If you have something to do as a secretary, if you have nothing to do as a secretary. Mylene Shu took a pair of long legs, hooked Marvin Huang's arm, and said coquettishly, Mr. Huang, this is my first time coming here. Didn't you say that you know the manager here? Let him at a table. For us. Upon hearing this, Marion Young and the others also looked at Mr. Huang with hope. Mr. Huang found it difficult to ride a tiger. Where does he know any manager, but he just brags when he comes. This doesn't seem right. Don't make people embarrassed. Let's go to Dezhuang, I'll treat you, Marvin Huang said immediately. Dezhuang is not expensive, these 7 or 8 people, a meal, but only 1,000. If you go with the flow, please eat, and maybe Marion Young will thank herself. However, some colleagues were clearly unhappy. Miss Shu glanced at Marion Young and said dissatisfiedly, Vice President Young, you agreed to invite us to eat Juxian Pavilion, which is too disappointing. He was always jealous of Marion Young, so he rose to the position of vice president at a young age, and was favored by President Huang and Director Chong. Why? Just because he looks good. Don't you look good? I'm not only handsome, I'm also coquettish, you stinky man, why don't you care about me? Okay. Vice President Young didn't know if he should make an appointment, so he went to Dezhuang. Marvin Huang hurriedly spoke for Marion Young in a tough manner. Marion also hurriedly bowed and apologized. Sorry, I will invite you to Dezhuang. This was originally my treat, so I won't bother Mr. Huang to spend money. Several colleagues glanced at Marion Young coldly, and turned around in dissatisfaction and were about to leave. I'll be full of gas, and eat farts. Just when everyone was unhappy, a voice broke the silence. I have a membership card here, how about you use it? Andrew Cheng in the corner suddenly said. He still couldn't help but take action. After all, Marion Young was his own wife, and he felt bad about being scorned and looked down upon by his colleagues. You have a card. Andrew Cheng, you won't die if you don't talk too much. Do you know where this is? Juxian Pavilion. A membership card must cost at least 1 million a year. At this time, Marvin Huang's words that are neither yin nor yang came again. Several colleagues around him also looked at Andrew Cheng with negative eyes, and their faces became more sneer. Marion Young was also a little surprised, looked at Andrew Cheng with an embarrassed expression, walked over, pulled him out, and said in a low voice, What do you want to do? Hurry back to the hospital to accompany your daughter. This is for fear of embarrassing yourself and driving yourself away. Andrew Cheng didn't explain it either. Since he didn't want to help himself, he would just leave. However, Marvin Huang was interested and smiled disdainfully. Vice President Young, don't worry, since your husband said he has a membership card, let him book a table for me. Marvin Huang's face full of sarcasm was more like he wanted to see Andrew Cheng make a fool of himself. This dick really likes to pretend. Didn't he just hear that a Juxian Pavilion membership card and an ordinary silver card cost 1 million a year? Well, let him fool everyone. In that case, Marion Young should be very disappointed with him. You have the opportunity to enter. Andrew Cheng. Stop messing around. Come back quickly. Marion Young said coldly, trying his best to suppress his inner anger. Why does he want to jump out at this time? Is such an embarrassing thing so funny? Initially, when I was in front of my colleagues, I couldn't raise my head when I talked about my husband, and he wanted to add fuel to the fire. Really annoyed. Marian, I really have a membership card. Andrew Cheng said lightly. With that said, Andrew Cheng took out a card from his pocket and showed it in front of everyone. Marvin Huang and the others were shocked. Did he really have a card? However, on second thought, Mr. Huang's expression was even more pleasant. Andrew Cheng, this isn't your membership card to take home, right? Taking it is wrong to deceive people. Marvin Huang teased without anyone else. Andrew Cheng, on the other hand, looked at Marvin Huang indifferently like an idiot. This made Marvin Huang very angry. Why is this diocese so calm? Could it be that the card is still original? Impossible. It was at this time that Mylene Shu stepped on high heels, took the membership card from Andrew Cheng's hand, and sneered arrogantly, since Vice President Young's husband said it was a membership card, let's try it. After saying that, he took the card, twisted and turned his crotch, and ran to the front desk. Seeing this, Marian Young didn't have time to stop him, so he could only stomp his feet and looked at Andrew Cheng angrily. Andrew Cheng, you disappoint me so much. Yes, this man, at this time, is still pretending. It's good now, I'll expose his lies later, not just him, but myself. The grins on the faces of Marvin Huang and the others became even fuller. Let's go and see if we have made today's order. Mr. Huang was very happy, he couldn't wait to see Andrew Cheng make a fool of himself. He had many words ready, waiting to taunt him for a while. Several people laughed and walked around Andrew Cheng and Marian Young to the front desk, as if they were afraid that he would run away. Chapter 9. Receptionist. Mylene Shu took the card, glanced at Andrew Cheng arrogantly, shook it deliberately, and then said, help me see if this card can order a box. Everyone held back their laughter, waiting for Andrew Cheng to embarrass himself. The little girl at the front desk took the card and swiped it. His facial expression suddenly became nervous, and he said, Miss, is this your card? When Mylene Shu saw it, she shook her head hastily, stretched out her hand smeared with red nail polish, pointed at Andrew Cheng, who was surrounded by the crowd, and laughed jokingly. It's not mine, it's his. Ha ha. I laughed so hard, now Andrew Cheng was going to embarrass himself. Even Marian Young lost face. It's so cool, and there was a guy who sent him to slap his face like this. Miss Shu was so happy that she glanced at Marian Young, whose face was gloomy and watery, and said sarcastically, Vice President Young, your husband is really good. Marian Young was so embarrassed that he stabbed Andrew Cheng hard, and when he was about to reprimand, the little girl at the front desk ran out, and then stood in front of Andrew Cheng respectfully, and said very politely, Sir, you are us. Platinum Hotel members, there is a special box provided for you, please come with me. The ironic grins on everyone's faces stopped suddenly. Too sudden. People haven't reacted yet. What's the situation? Premium box. Mylene Shu was the first to jump out excitedly, pointing at Andrew Cheng and shouting in disbelief. Hey, did you make a mistake? He is a platinum member of your hotel. You can see clearly. He, a food delivery man, or a soft rice eater, where is the platinum member? Marvin Huang was also stunned, but he prepared a lot of ridicule, just waiting to say it. However, this platinum member caught him off guard, as if he was caught in his throat. Marian Young also looked strange, looking at the waiter at the front desk in confusion, and then at Andrew Cheng. Is your husband a platinum member of the Juxian Pavilion? I just heard from Mr. Huang that ordinary members have to spend millions a year, so these platinum members need millions. The waiter at the front desk smiled politely. Yes, this card is a platinum card. Our hotel has issued a total of 8 cards. One card is reserved for a special box. Wow. Everyone took a deep breath. 1 card and 1 box, This is simply the treatment of an emperor. Is this still Marion Young's useless husband? Sir, here is your card, please come with me. The waiter said respectfully. Andrew Cheng took the card, looked at everyone stunned and gritted his teeth, and explained, "It's not mine, it's our company boss, let me reserve a seat." Calling. Andrew Cheng said this, Marvin Wan, Miss Shu and other talents breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be a fake public benefit, using the boss's card to act as coercion. Depend on. The damage made Mylene Shu's legs weak and almost wet. Marvin Huang also glared at Andrew Cheng angrily, and then sneered. What I thought, it turned out to be pretending to be a goat head and selling dog meat. When he said this, the others also laughed a few times. However, the box has already been ordered. Don't eat white, don't eat ah. Andrew Cheng didn't explain, and said lightly to Marion Young, take them to dinner, I'll go back first. After all, without waiting for Marion Young to stay, Andrew Cheng had left Juxian Pavilion with the scroll in the box. Although Marion Young felt a little uncomfortable in her heart, she couldn't stand her colleague's persuasion, so she followed the waiter to the box. Of course, Mr. Huang and Miss Shu were not very happy with this meal. After all, it was the box opened by Marion's trash husband. After leaving Juxian Pavilion, Andrew Cheng received a text message from Marion Young not long after. Thank you. Andrew Cheng glanced at him, smiled at the corner of his mouth, and replied, You're welcome. For Marion Young, Andrew Cheng felt a bit guilty. He was clearly the heir to the world's largest consortium, but because he didn't want to inherit the family business, he came to Shangjiang to pretend to be poor and experience life. When can I fight with Marion Young? Wait for a moment. After sweeping the bicycle, Andrew Cheng immediately rode to the hospital. In the middle of the road, Andrew Cheng turned right and hit a speeding motorbike. Almost immediately, Namo's fast motorbike buzzed in his ears. Then Andrew Cheng felt a gust of wind blowing around him. A motorcycle suddenly braked to the right, and with a bang, even the man and the car rolled onto the green belt. Destroyed. Andrew Cheng immediately dropped the bicycle and ran to see if the other party was okay. At this time, a man and a woman were riding on the green belt. The woman's black skirt was shattered by the branches, revealing a large piece of white snow, and her face was frightened. Andrew Cheng hurriedly apologized. Sorry, I didn't see anyone. Are you okay? If you want to go to the hospital, I will pay. When the man heard this, he immediately burst into anger, and scolded. Damn it. Are you an idiot? This is a special version of Tough Guy Harley Iron 883. The full price is 200,000. Can you afford it? Andrew Cheng said. I will pay you 300,000 yuan, and 100,000 yuan is the medical fee I provided. My grass. When the man heard this, he immediately grinned and sneered, and pushed Andrew Cheng hard. How much money do you have? 300,000. Can you get it? What do you pretend to do with Lao Su? Andrew Cheng was staggered by the opponent, frowning and said, You guys ran through the red light. It's not bad for me not to care about you, don't try to get ahead. It was correct for Andrew Cheng to turn right, it was the other party who wanted to run the red light. If it makes sense, they are to blame. Damn. You said I ran a red light. Which eye did you see? At this time, the girl behind him reacted, took off her helmet, looked at Andrew Cheng and shouted, Why are you? Andrew Cheng looked around and found that this girl was actually Cherry Young. For a moment, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Brother Ron, don't let him go. Cherry Young shouted sharply. This man's name is Ron Ming, a rich second generation. Andrew Cheng looked at Cherry Young with some hesitation. Then Ron Ming immediately pointed at Andrew Cheng's nose and asked Cherry, Do you know this idiot? Cherry Young nodded, glared at Andrew Cheng, and said, My cousin-in-law, but we don't know each other well, he is a soft eater. Those who eat soft rice still pretend to be compulsive with Lao Su. You must be bored of life. Ron Ming immediately said angrily, and followed with a sneering smile. Okay, didn't you say you would pay 300,000 yuan? Come on, give me the money. Cherry Young had an indifferent expression on his face, and the corners of his mouth were full of disdain. 300,000. Just kidding. Just Andrew Cheng. Where did he get 300,000 yuan? Andrew Cheng wanted to pay, but now he doesn't want to. He said, I don't want to pay, because you were the one who ran the red light. If there was no Cherry Young, Andrew Cheng might have lost money and let this matter rest in peace. But now, he couldn't do it. Cherry Young sneered and said, hee hee, I thought you had no money. Weren't you pretending to be pretty good just now? Why are you so cowardly now? Grass. Still poor people. Rin Ming scolded. 300,000. Quickly bring the money, otherwise, I'll call someone. Call someone. Andrew Cheng is really not afraid of the other party calling someone. Then just call. Andrew Cheng said lightly. Okay. You have a kind of child. Don't scare me for a moment. Ron Ming pointed at Andrew Cheng and threatened, then took out his cell phone to make a call, and said angrily, Brother Henry, hurry up and take someone to Ginza. After hanging up the phone, Ron glanced at Andrew Cheng coldly, and said, My brother will be here soon, you are ready to beg for mercy. Andrew Cheng looked indifferent and didn't know what he was thinking. Then, he sighed helplessly, took out his cell phone and called Angela Song. Miss Song, take people to Ginza, the more the better. As soon as he hung up, Ron Ming over there burst into laughter and said, Ha ha ha, you called someone too. You really laughed at me. Okay, I want to see who you can contact. Cherry Young remained silent, just watching from the sidelines. Andrew Cheng stared at her several times, making her very uncomfortable. What was Andrew Cheng thinking? Of course, I thought that Marion Young's cousin was very powerful, and she changed his boyfriend so quickly. When the time comes, tell Cherry Young to look after this cousin. If you don't study well at such a young age, you may not know what will happen in the future. At the same time, the company's errand boy Angela Song immediately notified Andrew Cheng after receiving the call. Suddenly, all the takeaway employees of errand companies across the city were driving their standard red battery cars, wearing bright red vests and red helmets. From the sky, countless red dots slowly converged towards Ginza. Looking back at Andrew Cheng, the person called Ron Ming had arrived. 4 Harleys. 8 people, men and women, all dressed in cool motorcycle costumes, very handsome and fashionable. The buzz roar came from the bombing of the road. The leader is a handsome boy who is 1.8 meters tall, with a strong body and a short head. He is handsome and handsome. Ron, what's the situation? Why did your car crash? Henry Liu took Ron and walked with someone. At the same time, he glanced at Andrew Cheng, and he had a general idea. Did you hit? Henry Liu asked in a cold voice, looking at Andrew Cheng. Andrew Cheng fell silent. Brother Henry, here it is. Let him take out 300,000 yuan today, or don't want to go, Ron shouted from behind. Stay tuned for next chapters of My Trillionaire Son-in-Law.